Today's guest, Keith Johanson, has spent his life pursuing the truth and honoring those who served. A machinist engineer by trade, Keith is also a passionate advocate for POWs and MIAs, working through the organization Rolling Thunder to make sure that their stories are not forgotten. He's here to share the story of misinformation, perseverance, and a long overdue homecoming. So let's welcome Keith today to Life Mosaic. Welcome to Life Mosaic. Hi, I'm Weezy, and I love to share stories that connect the generations, weaving together the threads of life into a beautiful and lasting legacy. This is a space where every moment and memory matters, embracing the joy, the challenges, and everything in between that shapes who we are. Join me as I uncover and celebrate the living legacy that transcends time and space, creating the mosaic of life, one story at a time. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Life Mosaic, and I am so excited about today's guest. Hey, Keith, how are you doing today? And thank you for coming and sharing your stories with us.
Well, I'm absolutely marvelous, and it's great to be here because I want to share this story. Everybody needs to know it.
Yes, they do. But before we get into the story, Um, tell us just a little bit about yourself. You're a retired veteran. So just give us a quick little bio of Keith and what makes Keith such a unique individual.
Well, I've worked my whole life. I started working in a machine shop when I was 13 years old. My father's machine shop, of
Oh,
course.
okay.
And but that was back in the time of Vietnam. So when I turned 18, I was invited, and
You got the big
I,
invitation in the
I
mail?
got the invitation, and I decided to join the Navy. And I joined the Navy as a gunner's mate. But when they got a hold of me, they told me I was an electronic genius, so they taught me electronics. Okay, and
Okay.
yeah, but my career with the Navy was cut short. I had an accident, really messed up an arm, and they
Mm.
said, "We're sorry, but you're going to have to go home." And that was that. So
So
I,
about how
I'm
long so about how long did you serve?
it wasn't long. It was one year, 2 months, and 19 days exactly. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I say I had the experience. I'd been to sea. I'd done a bunch of cool stuff, and truthfully, if I could do it again, I'd do it again. And yeah, I highly recommend anybody who doesn't know where they're going in this world when they're young is go in the service. Yeah.
Yeah, my
But
son did it for a hot minute and kind of like you, he went in and through the physical fitness. Of course, he was an older soldier. He was an old man at 29 serving.
oh gosh, yeah.
Hips got to him and couldn't pass. He had a little too much time on his physical fitness test, so they decided to part ways after 2 years. So, but
When I left the Navy, I had a couple of short jobs. I worked for National Cash Register, working on their big mainframe computers. This was back when a computer took up an entire room. Remember those days, you know? And
I don't. I was a little young yet, but I've seen pictures.
there you go. Yes, I'm living history. Yes. But after that, I went back to the machine tool business, and I actually became the senior manufacturing engineer for Cincinnati Millicron, which was a major manufacturer for machine tools. And then I retired from them, and I became the senior engineer for another company for a short time, and then I retired from them. I like retirement parties, and
You're fortunate
then
to get one because these
yeah,
days
then
not everybody gets one.
I taught for 5 years at York Technical College,
I'm a
and
graduate of your technical.
okay. Yeah. Well, I
I went
actually,
back as an older student.
I'll tell you a funny story. I actually, when I applied for that position, keep in mind, I had already been affiliated with the school for 35 years through my company
Mm-hmm.
because I taught company classes there. But now I'm going to teach for the school. They made me get a degree in that field, although I wrote half of the curriculum already. So yeah, I've been affiliated with York Tech for 40 years, and it's a great school. So I've seen it grow from a little tiny thing to what it is now. It's fantastic. Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I am a big proponent of community college, of kids getting their start there, saving some money to for their core classes. And my husband and I are great supporters of going and getting a degree of like what you helped with trades. Both of our children are in the trades, and my husband is an engineer. He's a retired process engineer for manufacturing, but he
Okay.
wished he would have gone to school. He wished he would have continued and taken some machine
Yeah.
engineering
No.
classes too.
The last class I taught at York Tech was last fall,
Yeah.
fall of 2024. So I go back occasionally when they ask me to, and it's fun. Keeps me
Yeah.
off the streets. So
Keeps you out of trouble and off the streets,
yeah, well,
out
not
of the
out of trouble,
bars.
but keeps me off the street. Yeah.
Uh, so anyways, there's something that we have in common, and that's why I call this Life Mosaic, this podcast, because it people have such different um things in life, and we're not just in one stream. We have different things that we do, and just it makes life, taking all those little tiles of life and putting them together makes us interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so you like to tell stories about things and people of are they in history, or are they all military
Well,
stories?
I have two major ones, and they are both military.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm working on another project now, which is a patriotic type project, but yeah, let's say it's military. But
Yeah.
I try to focus on people or events that have been forgotten or nobody knows the whole story. Remember the old saying, now you know the rest of the story?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stories I tell. Yeah.
So cool, so cool. So today, you and I agreed ahead of time. We chose a story, and we are going to go back to the tomb of the unknown soldier.
That's
And
great.
you said that the mystery has been solved. So you want to share the story with us?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let me tell you how I found out about it. And
Okay.
I'm going to tell you the story about the Vietnam veteran that was erroneously buried at the tomb of the unknown soldier. Okay, just because somebody followed the book to the letter and didn't use any common sense.
Mm.
And there's an old saying in industry: if you want to bring a company to its knees, follow their operating manual without any common sense implied. Okay, and you will bankrupt the company. Well, that's basically what happened here. But how I heard about this story was I'm chairman of the board of Rolling Thunder in South Carolina for Chapter One, and I've been a member for many years. And I went to a
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. I have an idea of what Rolling Thunder is. What is Rolling Thunder?
okay, Rolling Thunder is a group of people, and a large portion of us are Vietnam era veterans. But our major function is to educate the public about the plight of POWs and MIAs, prisoners of war, missing in action. And that's what we do.
Okay.
Okay. So we, for many years, for 32 years, held the ride in Washington, D.C. on Memorial Day Sunday. And we started off, the first ride had 2,000 motorcycles. The 32nd ride had 1.2 million motorcycles. So
Mm.
we would gather at the Pentagon parking lot, and we would drive through Washington for about 20 minutes, just as a protest to bring the message to the public that the MIA's POWs were forgotten during Vietnam.
Yeah.
Okay, and we had many left behind. Okay, so it's a thing we do. The ride took 20 minutes for your bike, for your motorcycle, but the entire ride from start to finish was 6 hours to
Oh.
get that many motorcycles through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very emotional, very well organized. But we stopped doing it after the 32nd ride because we had some political pushback. This was during the Obama administration and Biden taking over. And all of a sudden, the Pentagon wanted to charge us for using their parking lot, and they had to supply their own security. And it became financially tough. The ride now is taken over by a another group. I don't really want to get into that,
Right.
but yeah, we had 32 very good years, and
Well,
we got
thank
our
you for
message
bringing the
across.
awareness to that because, during those in the early 70s, I was little, but I've always been observant. And I remember the thing I remember about that time is hearing some stories. One of our close friends, he was a colonel, and he had been a POW, and so but he had gotten returned home and um alive, and he lived a long life. But I remember the bracelets that people used to wear, the little cuff bracelets that people
Yes,
would wear with the names on there to
yeah,
show their support.
yeah.
That's something that really just still stands out after all of this time.
Yeah.
So you were are part of Rolling Thunder, and then you tell these stories. And so how did you come into the story of the unknown soldier?
Okay, well, I heard that this was at a Rolling Thunder national meeting. I heard the story of the Vietnam veteran who was buried at the Tomb of the Unknown. I heard their story from his sister.
Uh,
And I usually start my presentation like that. Well, if he was unknown, how did you know his sister?
yeah, good
Yeah,
question.
good question.
Let's
And
connect some dots. Let's make some sense.
yeah, yeah. One of the early founders of Rolling Thunder was a investigative reporter, and he put a lot of facts together. I'm going to get into detail with that
Okay.
later. But the Vietnam veteran that was buried was Lieutenant Joseph Blashy, excuse me, Michael Joseph Blashy, and his
Mm-hmm.
sister was Patricia Blashy. And she was very eloquent, very good speaker. She was a retired colonel from the Air Force. She was the younger sister of Michael,
Okay.
and she was telling her brother's story. And she literally had me on the edge of my seat. I mean, I was so captivated with this story because I had no idea that this happened. And when I tell you the rest of the story, you'll know why I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
about it and why you didn't know about it. And a lot of people out there didn't know about it, believe me.
Well, a lot of people, I mean, it could be, some people might view it. True crime is, hot these days. So
Yeah.
fill us in, give us the details.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Anyhow, I've met a lot of prisoners of war, and I've heard all kinds of stories. there's some very sad stories, torture and beatings, and then there's some interesting stories that are almost lighthearted about being a prisoner of war. I'll tell you my favorite one because it's a lighthearted story. There was a Hispanic gentleman named Joseph Hudson. I met him at a national rally, and he he was part of a group of 33 soldiers in Afghanistan, and 7 of them became captors, and Taliban took them to a town and told the mayor of the town that he had to keep these 7 prisoners for him. Now, the mayor and the town didn't want anything to do with it. So when the Taliban left, the mayor told his son, who spoke English, to go tell the soldiers, the prisoners, that there's a white van outside, and to hop in the van because the Marines are on the other side of town. Just go over there, get out of here. The prisoners are there saying, this is just a ploy. They're going to shoot us for escaping. So they talked the mayor's son into going over to the Marines and telling the Marines that, hey, there's 7 guys on the other side of town, go get them. Well, the Marines, being smart, figured, well, this is going to be an ambush. Okay. But God bless the Marine Corps. They went anyhow. Okay.
Yay!
Just a bunch of brave guys. They went and got them and brought them to the other side of town and brought them home. But the funny part of the story, I was talking with Joseph, and he had a nickname of Gump. And I said, Joseph, how does a Hispanic get a nickname like Gump? And he says, well, when they captured me, I'd been shot in the buttocks.
I'm going,
And
how's
here,
this going to come back to Forrest Gump? That was perfect. Lieutenant
so,
Dan.
so that's a good story,
That is a good
I,
story.
the other ones are just too tough. We don't have time to go into all those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's Joseph. I enjoyed him.
Yeah, yeah. So so to get back to our Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, you were listening to Patricia's story about her brother, Michael.
Yeah.
And so are we at the point we want to share the story?
Yeah. Let's talk about this because this is the whole point of this thing. Okay, so Lieutenant Michael Joseph Blashy was shot down in at the Battle of An Loc, which was a tremendous battle in Vietnam, one of the biggest, and it was on May 11th, 1972. So he was flying a A-37 Dragonfly, which was the predecessor of the A-10. It was a ground support fighter, and he had a wingman, and the wingman saw Michael get shot down. Michael came in, he went inverted and landed right on his canopy, and immediately died from that.
Mm.
But we knew exactly where he was. We knew exactly who he was, and we had all those details. But because of the battle, they couldn't go get him right away, and it was just assumed he was dead. Yeah. But anyhow, his body was recovered a couple months later, and they found 6 bones. Okay, the animals had come and
Mm.
eaten him. Actually,
Oof.
I hate to say that, but
It's the truth.
there were 6 bones. There was his holster. There was his ID card. There was they had his survival equipment. Now, in the military or Air Force specifically, each pilot is given survival equipment, of course, and they're all serial numbered. So we had the survival equipment with the serial numbers identifying it as belonging to Michael Joseph Blashy. That's pretty darn good conclusive
Yeah.
conclusive. But considering also there were no other airplanes down in that area, it really narrowed it down. Okay, it had to be him. Okay, so what happened now? The the bones were taken back. All the equipment was taken back and sent to several identification stations, eventually Hawaii. And there was a doctor who had the job of identifying the remains conclusively. Now, this is before DNA. Okay, so he had to go by a anthropological formula. He did some measuring, and it's that this bone here in your arm, a
Okay.
femur, I think. I'm not even sure
I
what it's called, but
I
anyhow,
I'm I don't know anatomy either.
yeah, that, yeah. My nickname's Doctor J, but I'm only a doctor on the internet, so don't worry about it. But anyhow, the doctor he did measurements for the bones, and he came up with a conclusion that it couldn't have been Michael. And the reason was that when he did the measurements, okay, he assumed that the person was going to be between 26 and 33 years old. Michael was 24. So he was off by 2 years. Okay. Also, he estimated his height and he was off by half an inch. So now, remember, following the book to the letter, okay, without using common
Mm-hmm.
sense, although he
Mm-hmm.
knew that all this other information was there, all the evidence, he says, well, this can't possibly
This
be him.
doesn't fit in the box.
Yes, that was it.
Can't
You
think
know,
outside of the box, God forbid.
yeah. And that started it all right there. So now they took all of the evidence and they put it over here, and they took his bones and they put them over there. Okay. And then because the doctor said it couldn't be Michael Joseph Blashy, he was then given an identifying number as being X26.
So he
So
went from a
they took
person
him to a number,
to a number. Mm-hmm.
to a number, and the unknowns were given those numbers. That's where it started. Okay, so now I've got a lot of documents. So if I had my presentation, you could see it. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
over all those details. But there were documents saying, okay, we're separating this, and then they're saying that, okay, we want to make sure that we don't get any confusion. So with the bones were some documents with Michael Joseph Blashy's name on it. So there was an order sent out that all those documents would go over to the files with all the other evidence. So now they've taken all of that away, and now the bones are X26, and that's it. Okay, so that's where it really separated, and that's what Pat called Pat. Pat is Michael's sister. Pat, at the smoking gun. Okay, it
Mm-hmm.
was proof that they really separated this, and it was just I don't know, what do you call it, bureaucratic nonsense.
That's one way to put it. That's kind of the nice way to put it.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking something else in my mind, but we'll go with your version.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a PG show. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, let me tell you how soldiers, the unknown soldiers are chosen. Back in the first unknown, there was a sergeant who was given the task of placing four or a bouquet of roses on one of four caskets, and these are the unknown from World War One, and he walked around the casket several times, and finally put the white roses on one casket, and that person became the unknown. And at the tomb of the unknown at that time, they only expected only one person to be at the tomb, because with the Great War, they called it, because they didn't know it was World War I at that time. The
Okay.
Great War, there could never be another war.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they made this nice tomb for it, and it was all taken care of very well. But so Michael's name, or no, excuse me, not Michael's name, X26 was put on a piece of paper, and with three other X numbers, and it was chosen that way. It was not very ceremonial. Yeah.
Did they put the remains of all three of them in there, or just Michael's six bones? And
No,
he
oh
was
no, there.
like his ex was like, let's put these three numbers in a hat and draw one to
Yeah,
see who
yeah.
gets
I
picked.
don't know exactly how they did it, but there wasn't a real ceremony for it like they did for the first. And
Okay.
they chose X26, so now they had the six bones, and that's what they were going to bury. And they did that. And on it was Memorial Day of 1984 that President Reagan declared that we would have a Vietnam unknown. So there was a fantastic ceremony, fantastic burial, and the streets of Washington were lined, and they buried X26. Now, in the if you know the layout of the Tomb of the Unknown, there's a large building, large tomb. That's where the tomb of for the World War I veteran is. But in front of it, there lying on the ground are three others. One is from World War II, then Korea, then Vietnam. Vietnam was in the middle. Okay, so they buried Michael there, and this is tough for me to go through, especially just trying to verbalize it. But I'm going to cut to the chase here. It was finally decided that because of the investigative reporter that, like I said, was one of the founders of Rolling Thunder, there was a CBS reporter, Vince Gonzalez. I don't know if you remember his name, but Vince was working on this also, and because of the fact that there was other evidence, such as a book called The Missing Plane. The Missing Plane book was about finding missing airmen in Europe, but there were three pages dedicated to Michael Blashy, although they didn't know exactly who he was, but they knew of the facts, the fact that he went down during Anlock. They found all the evidence with him, and et cetera, et cetera. So anyhow, Vince got this together, and between the two guys, they convinced the government that they knew who was buried at the tomb. And so on May 7th, 1998, there was permission to open the tomb for Vietnam.
I think I
And by
slightly
that
remember that.
time, yeah, by that time, DNA had been discovered. So they got a sample from his mother, from my,
Michael's mother.
from Michael's mother. And the thing is, DNA, yeah, you can take it off the dead person, but then you got to have somebody to match it to. And
Mm-hmm.
because the evidence was so strong, they took his mom. And shortly after that, one and a half months later, Secretary of Defense Cohen called Michael's mother and said, "You were a perfect match." this is your son. So
Mm.
now Vince Gonzalez was with CBS, and shortly after Michael's mother was announced, Vince was going to have a 1 hour documentary on this, on how this happened, everything they did with it. And all of a sudden, it was taken off the news. He never got to say it. Okay? And the reason is that day, okay, that's when Linda Tripp testified to Congress about the Bill Clinton Monica Lewinsky affair. And that's the rest of the story. I mean, that's why nobody heard it. It got white, it got washed off. There was because all of the Clinton stuff went on for quite a while. By that time, Michael Joseph Blashy was old news.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm just looking at my, I'm tracking with you through my notes here. So with that little segment, I actually with right where you're at, my question that I wrote down in my notes is, do you think we're still missing stories like that today because of
Oh,
because uh, I mean, and today we're just so distracted that the it just flashes and gets lost.
with the political culture the way it is, they came up with that term, you can be canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of canceling that goes on. I'm sure there is. Okay. And it's just which media has the most power or the most listeners or the most gullible people that are going to believe everything they say. Yeah, I believe there's a lot of stories out there. Okay.
And this folds right into because as you know, I work not only do I encourage people to tell life stories, but I love people like you who have the truth of history. I think it even if it just is a blip on YouTube, a short video or something like that of retelling these stories, there's a way of the truth coming out. I don't know if you're familiar with some of the guys who tell historical stories on YouTube. They're quite colorful and stuff like that. My son has introduced me to the Fat Electrician. Have you ever watched any of his things on YouTube?
Yeah,
He
I watch a lot of YouTube. You get a lot of truth on YouTube.
Yeah. And but I love the Fat Electrician. I mean, he's fast, he's quick, and he talks about these unsung heroes that the
Yeah,
probably that the military would like going, oh my gosh, I can't believe but we
yeah.
have to let him go. And I kind of have a heart for those that personality type. But anyway, I just want to, it's so great for you taking the time to bring Michael's story to light. And I just think it's wonderful, and I'm not wrapping up, but I just want to say thank you at this point for being here today and sharing with my audience this story and uh, shining a spotlight onto to Michael and his family of
Well,
what happened.
that's I appreciate that. I'm going to do a little advertising here. I give this presentation. It's an hour-long presentation. It's
Yeah.
PowerPoint with all the documents that I talked about, and I'll give it to any organization. 3 people or more. I've done it to as many as 150 at one time. So I'd love to spread the word on this. So
Yes. So please give me, if you have a web link or any kind of link or your information, I will put that into the show notes
yeah, just
of the
well,
show. Mm-hmm.
just my email address.
All right.
You have
I will
that.
and I have that. So
Yeah.
but you but no, It's a compelling story, and now I can't talk. Well worth the listen to learn.
Yeah.
So thank you for taking the time to do this. We are coming down to the end. Is there anything else in the story that you want to share? Share about this. What happened
Oh,
after they tell her his mother, and there's going to be this big news story, and it's pulled? Was there anything past that? You froze.
one is Michael is now resting at the Jefferson Barracks in St. Louis. There's a cemetery there.
Okay.
So that's near his family home. So
Okay.
there is nobody in the tomb of the unknown for Vietnam. We still have the one for Korea and the one for World War II and World War One. There will never be another unknown because all military personnel get DNA tests. Okay? So they're going to know who that they are. So on the tomb of the Vietnam veteran from the Vietnam unknown, it now states honoring and keeping faith with America's missing servicemen, 1958 to 1975. And that's going to be supposedly the end of unknowns. The other thing, remember I told you about all of the evidence, the survival equipment, the pistol
Mm-hmm.
holster,
Mm-hmm.
okay, all of that stuff. I have a picture of all of it. I have actually touched that stuff. And I asked Patricia Blashy, I said, Patricia, how did you get all this stuff? It was supposedly missing, it was gone. And here's the real clincher. And my jaw dropped. She said, when they opened the coffin, it was in the coffin with Michael's remains.
Okay,
Yeah,
so my jaw just dropped
yes,
because in the beginning of the story, you say he became a number and all the other things were sent away.
yes. So
But
now,
but now it's was encased in the tomb with him. So they
now,
knew,
don't know if they knew,
or they
but
were just going by orders, but his stuff was in the tomb with him.
yeah, is two theories you could have. Somebody knew about it and had a conscience and put the equipment where it belonged with Michael. Or the other one, the other conspiracy theory was whoever knew needed to hide it, so he hid it where nobody would ever
Find
would
it.
be buried forever. You can make up your own conspiracy theory, but now you really know the rest of the story.
Whew.
Yeah, yeah. When Pat told me that, I said, "Oh my goodness," because Pat and I have not a close relationship, but we communicate back and forth, and
Mm-hmm.
she knows I'm telling Michael's story, and I have the family blessing to do this, so it's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Does does talking about Pat, just if somebody wanted to do a little more research, I know we're talking about you and you telling the story, but if they wanted to look up Pat, does she have a place where she shares different things, or you could
Okay.
find information on her?
Yes, I do. Okay. If you go, it's not only on her. She tells the whole story on YouTube.
Okay.
Okay. And she tells it pretty much the way I heard it the first time. And it's a long YouTube. The first 10 minutes have nothing to do with Michael. It's she's giving the speech to a group of people she knows. But if you skip the first 10 minutes and then she'll be right there with Michael. And it's on YouTube, and YouTube has this really long address. The thing to do is get on
Well,
YouTube.
yeah, I usually just go in there and I could copy and paste the link into
Yeah.
the show notes.
Okay, I can send that to you, but quickly, just search YouTube for Michael Blash as told by Colonel Patricia Blashy.
Yeah. You've spent a lifetime gathering wisdom, but what's stopping you from sharing it? Maybe you're worried it won't come out right. Maybe you think your story isn't important enough, or you're unsure of where to begin. But here's the truth, your story matters. It's the thread that ties the generations together. It's the lessons that will inspire your family long after you're gone. One of my favorite techniques is to use video. After all, seeing is believing, right? I know getting in front of the camera can be intimidating. Believe me, I've been there. I coach and I interview businesses all the time, and I see the same nerves on their face every single time. You don't have to face it alone. With a little guidance, sharing your story can feel as natural as talking to an old friend. This year, give the gift that lasts for generations. Contact me to learn how to give a living legacy session to someone you love. So that's a wrap on the on Michael's story. So with your on your journey of um curiosity and adventure, Keith, what's holding you that where's your next journey gonna go?
Like I said, I've got the one about the first man to ever land an airplane on the South Pole.
Mm-hmm.
And his name is Lieutenant Conrad Shin, and I actually knew him. Okay? I know his family. I'm very good friends with one of his daughters, and that's a whole nother story there. But
Yeah, you're gonna
yeah,
have to come back for that one because
Con-
that was the story. You, how Keith and I met is we met with another a veterans meeting that is held here locally, and Keith got up and shared part of the story, and so I was intrigued, and so I automatically asked him to be a guest here, and so I want to know more about that story because it's so intriguing. So you're just going to have to come back next season and
yeah,
tell that
yeah,
story.
that's I'd love to because this is see the story I just told you is sort of a dark story. The story of Lieutenant Commander Conrad Shin is a hoot. I mean, he's
Oh, I like a hoot
it's
story.
a great story. He said his greatest feat was not being the first man to land on the South Pole. His greatest feat was the first man to be able to take off from the South Pole because
Yeah.
he almost didn't. And
And I'm
he
going to ask a quick question there. Is it because of the temperatures? He's in a
temperature was minus 80 degrees that day, and it and at the South Pole, you're at 10,000 feet above sea level. Now, that's the
oh.
magic number where airlines want you to go to oxygen. Okay, so now you've got thin air, it's extremely cold, and he's got a propeller driven airplane. And
Oh,
it,
you just
he
set up
had,
a nice mystery hook there to get people to come back and hear that story.
yeah. And I can describe to you in great detail how he took off, how it was. And it's another seat of your pants type flying. And it was great.
You're
But
just gonna you're
yeah,
just gonna have to
he
come back and
died.
share it.
He died this past May 15th. And I wasn't there the moment he died, but I was there a day or two before. And
Mhm.
he was a friend. He was a friend. He was a hell of a guy. So
Oh,
at 102, he was a World War II hero, first man to land an airplane on the South Pole, and did a bunch of other stuff. It's
well,
fantastic.
I can't wait to hear. I just
Yeah,
can't wait to hear this. But yeah, because of time,
yeah.
we can't go into it today. But we'll stay tuned because we will have part two of Keith coming to
Yeah.
us. Keith, our time is coming to an end, but I just want to thank you for sharing this truth with us about the tomb of the unknown soldier and sharing about, how your time in the service. Thank you for your time in the service and just the what you give back to our country in memory, keeping recognition to the soldiers who can be forgotten. And so I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you
Oh,
very much
you're
for
quite welcome, and thank you for giving me the time because, like I say, this is cool stuff.
it is very cool stuff. And hey, you know what? I would love it if you would go ahead and follow me on other social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, where all the cool kids hang out. So go ahead and look down in the show notes. while you're there exploring about our interesting guest, and you can click on and join me on all of these social platforms and hit subscribe, like, follow, whatever it is that you need to do on those platforms. And please, best of all, follow me here on Podbean or your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, Amazon. I'm on them all. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode of Life Mosaic. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.